the whole city knows I'm bankrupt. The former Jiang family heiress, now living a life worse than my family's made. My bank account is next to nothing, and my credit card bills are a mountain of debt. I thought the people who used to flock around me would offer a helping hand, but instead, they all avoided me like the plague, wishing they'd never known me. What could I do? A girl's gotta survive. To hell with dignity, making money is all that matters. So, I put on a food delivery uniform and started weaving through the city, rain or shine. Then, as if fate were playing a cruel joke, I got an order. The delivery address stared back at me, Lu Corporation. Hoping against hope, I checked the customer's name, and my world went dark. There it was, in black and white, Lu Huai. Lu Huai, my sworn enemy in name, and in reality, well, he wasn't much better. The guy came from a prominent family, was incredibly capable, and most importantly, he was always at my throat, living for any chance to see me fail. I stared at the address on my phone, took a deep breath, grabbed the food, and walked into the building. An assistant glanced at me, told me the CEO's office was on the top floor, and waved me through without another word. I pushed open the door to a spacious, brightly lit office. Lu Huai was sitting on the sofa, flipping through a file with one hand. Behind him, the city lights sparkled through floor-to-ceiling windows. The cool moonlight fell on him, making him look regal and distant. We were worlds apart. Pompous ass, I cursed silently. He looked up, and when he saw me, a knowing glint appeared in his eyes. His long fingers tapped on the coffee table. A slight smirk played on his lips, his tone laced with mockery. Well, well. I never thought I'd see the day the great Miss Jiang would be delivering my food. I'd expected this attitude, but I had no time for his crap. I slapped the food down on the table. Your delivery. Sign for it. What's the rush? He slowly set down his file, leaned back against the sofa, and casually loosened his tie. As it happens, I have a little gig for you. A way to make some money. I raised an eyebrow. You want to humiliate me? I wouldn't call it humiliation. He smiled faintly, his dark eyes deep, his voice low and husky. Just a transaction. Kiss me. I'll give you 100,000. The air went still. I froze for a second, then laughed. The bastard. He never missed a chance to mess with me. Lu Huai leaned against the sofa, resting his cheek on his hand and watching me with a smirk, his eyes full of blatant amusement. What, scared? I knew he was doing this on purpose. What could be more humiliating than debasing yourself for your old rival? But Lu Huai had no idea how much shit I'd put up with since going broke. What was one little kiss? Besides, 100,000? It would take me ages to earn that much delivering food. I narrowed my eyes, a slow smile spreading across my face. The next second, I grabbed him by the collar, leaned in, and bit down. Hard. His whole body went rigid, his pupils constricting. He clearly never expected me to actually do it. I didn't hold back, leaving a sharp, perfect bite mark right on his collarbone, the teeth marks clearly visible. When I pulled away, his breathing was uneven. He glanced down at the red mark, his expression unreadable. When he looked back up, his dark eyes were tinged with some indecipherable emotion. I licked the corner of my mouth, my smile brazen. 100,000. Pay up. The tips of his ears flushed red for a second, but he quickly got it under control. He glared at me, speaking through gritted teeth. You. How could you do that for money? I scoffed. Oh, I can do a lot worse. Staring him down, I threw caution to the wind, grabbed his wrist, and shoved him back into the sofa. Jiang. Jiang Shermiao, what are you doing? Before he could finish, I leaned down and kissed him. The room went silent, the only sound the pounding of our hearts. This time, I didn't just bite. Fueled by a little revenge, I ground my lips against his, even tracing them with the tip of my tongue. When I pulled back, Lu Huai's face was beet red, his eyes wide with the dazed look of someone who'd been thoroughly taken advantage of. He was slumped against the sofa, his suit jacket wrinkled, his shirt gaping open. His lips were swollen, and the corners of his eyes were pink. He looked more like the victim than I did. I slowly straightened up, calmly wiped my mouth, and held out my hand. 1 million. Transfer it. Lu Huai took a deep breath, forcibly suppressing his emotions. He pulled out his phone, opened the transfer app, angrily typed in the numbers, and shoved the screen at me. Get out. I glanced down at the transfer confirmation. A smirk touched my lips. I patted his cheek, satisfied, then turned and walked out. The next day, I was about to take an order when I discovered my delivery account had been suspended. The reason, a customer complaint for terrible service attitude, ruining the dining experience. The complainant, Lu Huai. I stared at the name, held my temper for 2 seconds, and then couldn't hold it back anymore. I dialed his number. A ring, and he picked up. The man's lazy voice drifted through the receiver. What, can't bear to be without me? I gritted my teeth. Lu Huai, you just wait. Delivering food wasn't my ultimate dream, but I couldn't just swallow this insult. I got the money, but I still had to get screwed over. It was like landing a huge contract, working your ass off to complete it, and then having the client pay you while simultaneously blacklisting you and leaving a 1-star review. Who could stand for that? I grabbed my phone, didn't say another word, and stormed straight toward the Lu Corporation building. The receptionist at the front desk was a little taken aback when she saw me. Hello, may I ask who you're looking for? I flashed my phone in front of her face, my tone indignant. Lu Huai filed a complaint against me and got me fired. I need to have a word with him. The receptionist was speechless. I could tell by her expression she'd never seen anyone so brazen. Not far away, Lu Huai's executive assistant had just stepped out of an office. His face shifted when he saw me. Mr. Lu is busy. If there's anything you need. He can be as busy as he wants, he still owes me an explanation. I sidestepped them and marched toward the CEO's office. The assistant was speechless. The receptionist was speechless. No one was going to stop a woman who'd been wronged. I shoved the door open with a bang, then swung it shut behind me, even flicking the lock. Lu Huai was looking down, flipping through a file. He glanced up at the sound. The moment our eyes met, he was clearly surprised, then a smirk played on his lips as if he'd seen something amusing. His voice was teasing. Oh? What's this? Spent all the money already? Here to kiss me for some more? I let out a cold laugh and advanced on him, step by step. Lu Huai narrowed his eyes, his gaze turning wary. His voice deepened slightly. Jiang Shermiao, what are you planning now? I slammed my phone down on his desk and glared down at him, my voice hard as ice. You filed a malicious complaint and got me fired. Lu Huai, what the hell is that supposed to mean? His eyes flickered to the phone, and the curve of his lips deepened. He leaned back slowly in his chair, folding his hands on the desk as he looked at me, the picture of calm. You took the $1 million, and you still want to deliver food? Are you that desperate for cash? I happen to like earning my own damn money, so what? I snapped. His gaze settled on me, sweeping over my body as if sizing up a strange new curiosity. His eyes were deep. Then, he let out a soft scoff. Since you love making money so much, he said in a low voice, why don't I set you up with a more profitable gig? I narrowed my eyes, watching him suspiciously. What do you mean? He lazily opened a drawer, pulled out a contract, and slid it across the desk toward me, his tone casual. You need money, I have money. You want a job, and I happen to need a personal assistant. He paused, then added slowly, 500,000 a month. Room and board included. My eyes scanned the contract on the desk. It was all spelled out, personal assistant, 3-year term, salary of 500K/month, accommodations in an executive suite, with a dedicated driver and staff, enjoying all the perks of a high-level executive. 500,000? With room and board? The benefits were 100 times better than what my family's last housekeeper had. I frowned at him. What's the catch? Personal assistant, he repeated coolly. It's exactly what it sounds like. You'll handle some of my private affairs. Be on call, 24/7. I scoffed. You think I'm the kind of person who'd wait on you? His eyes glinted, and a sly, mischievous smile slowly spread across his face. His voice was full of insinuation. That's not what you were saying that day on the couch when you were having your way with me. I was speechless. Shit, he actually dared to bring that up. I suddenly had the urge to flip the entire desk over. Asterisk, rein it in. Be calm. I'm an adult asterisk. I kicked his office chair lightly and said with a smile that didn't reach my eyes, 500,000? You could buy a dog for more than that. Lu Huai watched me, unhurried, his gaze intense. He spoke slowly. But you're far more interesting than a dog. I looked at him, an alarm bell going off in my head. This guy was definitely up to no good. Fine. I crossed my arms, looking down at him from my superior position, my tone casual. Personal assistant, right? I'll do it. But I have a few conditions. Lu Huai raised an eyebrow, gesturing for me to continue. I ticked them off on my fingers. First, you're not allowed to touch me. Second, a personal assistant is an assistant, not a personal lover, so don't try anything funny. Third, you pay me 3 months' salary in advance. After all, your reputation isn't the best, and I'm worried you'll stiff me on the pay. When I finished, Lu Huai laughed. It was a smile that screamed scheme. Deal, he said. But I have a condition, too. I frowned. What is it? His gaze landed on me, the corners of his mouth tipping up. His voice was leisurely. If you can't help yourself and touch me first, you have to return the 3 months' salary. Doubled. I was speechless. I stared at him, my mind flashing back to the image of him leaning lazily in his chair just moments before, his shirt collar slightly open, the bite mark on his collarbone faded but still visible, his lips a little too red, and a glint of provocation in his eyes. Shit. This punk. He couldn't possibly be doing this on purpose, could he? $500,000 a month to live in a mansion, eat fine dining, and not even have to do any real work, no matter how you sliced it, it was a steal. So, naturally, I moved into Lu Huai's place. It wasn't until I actually stepped into his apartment that I realized I might have underestimated Lu Huai's wealth. The place was in the most expensive luxury complex in the city center, and the elevator opened directly into his private foyer. The marble floors were polished to a mirror shine, and the living room was as spacious as an art gallery. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows lay the entire city skyline. Skyscrapers pierced the darkness, their neon lights reflecting off the glass in a display so dazzling I couldn't look away. What was even more ridiculous was the wine cabinet, stuffed to the brim with bottles lined up in perfect rows. Just looking at it, you could tell the guy had money to burn. I clicked my tongue in amazement. Pulling open a random drawer, I found it was filled with all kinds of limited edition watches. Even the most basic one in there was worth more than my entire savings. Lu Huai, you got money to burn or something? I commented offhandedly. He stood in the foyer, one hand in his pocket. The cuffs of his black shirt were slightly undone, revealing a strong wrist. He watched me nonchalantly. Pick any room you like, he said. But the master is mine. Fine, I replied lazily, turning to go unpack in one of the guest rooms. But when I opened the closet, I froze. The closet was filled with rows of brand new clothes, all in my size. He'd even laid out shoes, accessories, and loungewear. The tags were still on. I whipped my head around to look at him, stunned. When did you do all this? Lu Huai was perfectly composed. Yesterday. Yesterday? I narrowed my eyes, my tone edged with suspicion. So you knew I was going to agree from the very start? A slight, playful smile touched Lu Huai's lips. Jiang Shermiao, he said, when have you ever known me to make a move I wasn't sure of? I stared at him for 2 full seconds, alarm bells screaming in my head. This guy was definitely plotting something. I figured the whole personal assistant gig was just about sitting in on Lu Huai's meetings, answering some calls, and running a few errands at most. Turns out, the guy spends every day looking for new ways to mess with me. Day 1, he made me get up at 5 in the morning to cook him breakfast. So there I was at the crack of dawn, standing in the kitchen with a bedhead that could rival a bird's nest, so tired I could barely keep my eyes open, watching him wait leisurely at the dining table for his meal. I scoffed. You have a chef. Why am I the one making this? Lu Huai took a sip of his coffee and said, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world, personal assistant. It's supposed to be personal. Huh. Personal, my ass. Gritting my teeth, an idea sparked. I grabbed a heaping spoonful of chili oil, dumped it into his congee, stirred it in, and set it down in front of him with my most angelic smile. Enjoy. Lu Huai glanced at me, said nothing, and took a spoonful. Then, he furrowed his brow for a moment, and actually seemed to like it. He finished the entire bowl. Me. The hell? Are his taste buds made of steel? The next day, he made me go for a morning run with him. At 6 a.m., I was jolted awake by a call from Lu Huai. When I answered, his lazy voice drawled, "Jiang Shimiao. Get up. We're going for a run." Burrowed under the covers and dead tired, I rolled over. No. He let out a soft chuckle, his tone laced with a hint of menace. If you don't get up, I'm docking your pay. $500,000 was not a small sum. I caved. Who needs dignity when there's money on the line? 10 minutes later, I was standing downstairs. My hair was a mess, my eyes were dead to the world, and I had thrown on a baggy t-shirt and sweatpants. I was still wearing slippers. Across from me stood Lu Huai, decked out in black athletic wear, the sleeves pushed up just enough to reveal a pair of well-defined forearms. His breathing was even, his expression calm. He had clearly already warmed up. He scanned me from head to toe, the corner of his mouth twitching. Looking sharp. Haha, I deadpanned. Let's start with a 5-kilometer warm-up, he said, taking off before I could respond. I stared at his retreating back, took a deep breath, and turned right around to go back inside. I only made it a few steps before the back of my shirt was yanked. Lu Huai was looking down at me, unruffled, a glint of amusement in his eyes. Jiang Shimiao. What do you think you're doing? I lied through my teeth with a perfectly straight face. Oh, I just realized I'm wearing the wrong shoes. Then go change and come back. On second thought, I think slippers are fine. Lu Huai chuckled, then clamped a hand on the back of my neck and hauled me back to the path. 5 minutes later, I was bent over, hands on my knees, gasping for breath. My face was dark. Are you some kind of animal? Lu Huai stood beside me, not even breathing hard. You're just out of shape, he said coolly. Out of shape? I scoffed, straightening up. I took a step closer, narrowing my eyes at him. Fine. You want to try a different kind of cardio? We'll see who runs out of stamina first. Lu Huai raised an eyebrow, a smirk playing on his lips. He looked me over and let out a low, suggestive "hm." It took me a second to process what I'd just said. And then another second to realize the vibe had shifted. Why did that sound so dirty? Lu Huai let out a low chuckle, his voice a lazy drawl. I'm game. When and where? My face flushed. At your funeral, I snapped. I'll run a few extra laps around your grave. Then I turned and bolted. The night was deep, and a single warm-toned wall lamp was on in the bedroom, casting a soft glow over the headboard. I lay under the soft covers, staring at the ceiling, my mind a complete mess. It's only been 2 days. 2 days ago, I was still in my delivery driver's uniform, racing through the wind and rain. Now, I'm living in Lu Huai's house, and he torments me half to death every day. Ridiculous. This is completely ridiculous. How did I end up in Lu Huai's hands? I rolled over and closed my eyes, my mind involuntarily drifting back to a time long before. When we were kids, our relationship wasn't actually this bad. You could even say, it was pretty good. Our families are old friends, so we grew up together. He's a year older than me, always got better grades, and was way more mature. When I was a kid and ran out of allowance, he'd give me his without a second thought. Once, I bombed a math test and crumpled up the paper in a fit of anger. He patiently went through every problem with me until I understood. He even used to bake me little cakes. They didn't look like much, but they tasted pretty good. Back then, I thought Lu Huai was the most dependable friend in the world. So how did we end up as mortal enemies? It must have started in high school. Freshman year, a transfer student joined our class. He was really good-looking, with a clean-cut look, and his grades were good too. I was into him the second I saw him. I wanted to be around him all the time, bringing him snacks, helping with his homework, and tagging along with him after school. One time, when Lu Huai and I were walking home together, I asked him on a whim, "What do you think of the new transfer student? He's pretty handsome, right?" He was quiet for a moment, then said coolly, "He's average." I didn't think much of it and kept gushing, "But he has a great personality too, so gentle." Before I could finish, Lu Huai suddenly stopped walking. His expression was cold. "You're always hovering around him. Do you like him that much?" "It's not like that. I just think he's a nice guy." Lu Huai scoffed. Without another word, he suddenly picked up his pace and walked ahead, leaving me standing alone at the corner. I just stood there, stunned, completely clueless as to why he'd suddenly gotten so mad. What was he so angry about? It's not like I did anything to him. Who was he to me, anyway? What gave him the right to butt into my business? Things started to get weird between us after that day. He became a lot colder toward me. At first, I tried to talk to him, but he'd always brush me off. He'd even stand around talking with other people and deliberately ignore me. But I have my pride, too. Why should I be the one to go placate him? And so, neither of us was willing to back down. Our relationship grew more and more strained, until we were just trading insults whenever we saw each other. And after that, we became mortal enemies. Thinking about it now, I pinched the bridge of my nose and couldn't help a bitter smile. The whole thing seemed so pointless back then, but looking back now, it feels like I was missing some vital piece of information. What was Lu Huai really so angry about? Frowning, I couldn't come up with an answer, so I just rolled over and pulled the covers tightly around me. Whatever. Let the past be the past. Right now, it's more realistic to focus on how I'm going to get back at Lu Huai for tormenting me tomorrow. I'll definitely find a way to get him back tomorrow. The third night. Lu Huai sat on the sofa, his expression as calm and self-possessed as ever, his gaze fixed impassively on the financial news flickering across the TV screen, as if everything was under his control. His long fingers tapped lightly on the arm of the sofa. With his shirt sleeves rolled to his elbows, revealing the sharp line of his wrist bones, he exuded a lazy yet dangerous air. If he wasn't so damn punchable, he'd actually be easy on the eyes. I stared at him for a moment, and a wicked idea suddenly came to me. Well, if he was so determined to play games with me, then we'd see who was the better player. I strolled over casually, plopped down beside him, and even leaned against his shoulder for good measure. Lu Huai's body went rigid instantly. His fingers, which had been resting casually on the armrest, froze. He frowned, the crease between his brows barely perceptible. He slowly turned his head, his dark eyes inscrutable as they landed on me. His voice was low. "What are you doing? A private assistant should be a little more private, don't you think?" I replied slowly, my tone laced with casual mockery. He's the one who said it, after all. Lu Huai narrowed his eyes, as if trying to read something on my face. After a moment, he raised a hand to push my shoulder. "Stop messing around." But the moment his hand touched me, his ears silently flushed red. Interesting. I stared at the tips of his ears for a moment, a flicker of amusement in my eyes. So the cold and composed Lu Huai had such an innocent side to him? I deliberately leaned in closer, tilting my head so my lips almost brushed the shell of his ear. My breath ghosted over his sensitive skin. I lowered my voice, making it deliberately soft. "Mr. Liu, do you think I could get my salary for this month a little early?" Lu Huai's shoulders went taut, as if he'd been scalded. His Adam's apple bobbed, and his breathing hitched for a moment. His eyes darkened. His fingertips tightened, as if he were desperately trying to restrain himself. "Jiang Shimiao," he ground out, his voice low and hoarse, stretched taut with restraint. I raised an eyebrow, looking at him with feigned innocence. "Hmm?" He stared at me, his eyes terrifyingly dark, as if suppressing some powerful emotion. After a few seconds, he shot to his feet. He moved so abruptly that the remote in his hand nearly fell to the floor. He fumbled for it and missed, then gave up. His voice was unnaturally strained. "I'm going to take a shower." With that, he practically fled into the bathroom, shutting the door behind him with a slam. I watched his flustered retreat, a slow smile spreading across my lips. I leaned back against the sofa, picked up my wine glass, and gave the red wine inside a gentle swirl. So he wasn't as thick-skinned as me, after all. But I could hear my own heartbeat, too. Having gotten one over on Lu Huai, I was in a great mood for the next few days. I was willing to put up with even his most unreasonable demands. That day, I had just walked over to the couch when Lu Huai suddenly looked up. His gaze flickered over me, and then he casually patted the empty spot beside him. His voice was low and nonchalant. "Your hair's not dry. Come here, I'll do it for you." I froze and shot him a wary glance. "Since when are you so nice?" The corners of Lu Huai's lips curved into a slight smirk, his gaze filled with some deeper meaning. Alarm bells immediately went off in my head. My first instinct was to refuse, but before I could even open my mouth, Lu Huai reached out and grabbed my wrist. His grip wasn't tight, but it was firm, leaving no room for argument. With a slight tug, I lost my balance and was pulled down to sit beside him. The warm pads of his fingers slid through my hair, gentle yet carrying an undeniable sense of control. He picked up the hairdryer and set it to a comfortable temperature. The warm air wafted over my scalp, creating a light, tingling sensation that left me feeling a little dazed. Lu Huai's fingers combed through my hair, slow and unhurried. Every so often, the pads of his fingers would ghost over the nape of my neck. That fleeting, barely there touch made my heart inexplicably begin to race. Is this guy for real? My back went rigid and my eyes darted about as I tried to ignore my increasingly chaotic heartbeat. I forced my voice to sound calm. "Lu Huai, didn't you used to hate me?" His hands paused. He let out a low chuckle, his tone languid. Then what is this?" I frowned, my voice uneasy. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he slowly leaned in, his lips close to my ear. His voice was low and husky, tinged with a bewitching quality. "I thought you liked to play? What, are you scared now?" I whipped my head around, only to find myself looking right into his eyes, deep, dark pools that seemed to hide some dangerous emotion, radiating an intensity that was both familiar and strange. The atmosphere suddenly became strange and intimate. A terrible thought popped into my head, he isn't planning on getting back at me, is he, I tried to pull back, but Lu Huai suddenly reached out, his hand cupping the nape of my neck, holding me gently but firmly so I couldn't move away. His fingertips rested against my skin, their warmth seeping through the damp strands of my hair. "Trying to run?" His voice was low, laced with amusement. "Didn't you walk right into this yourself?" So he was doing it on purpose. But what shocked me even more was that I hadn't immediately tried to push him away. My heart was hammering in my chest. I'd always thought I would be repulsed by such intimate contact, but as Lu Huai's palm rested against my neck, his warm breath ghosting past my ear, I realized. I didn't hate the feeling. In fact, for just a moment, a terrifying thought crossed my mind, what if he leaned in just a little closer, I immediately shut the thought down, cursing myself internally as I fought to regain my composure. But my mind couldn't help but drift back to the past, to my birthday, when he had clumsily baked a small cake for me. It had looked hideous, but I'd still taken a bite and laughed. "Just give it up, Lu Huai. This is genuinely terrible." His face had darkened then, and he'd snatched the cake back, retorting stubbornly, "Fine, don't eat it then." Looking back now, I had to wonder, have we really been such bitter enemies all these years? Lu Huai could be a real jerk, but he'd never actually done anything to hurt me. In fact, he'd even helped me out a lot. Even now, after I'd gone bankrupt and lost everything, he gave me a hard time on the surface, but in reality, he gave me money on time every month, and the work he had me do was never really that hard. The guy said nasty things, but when it came to his actions, he'd never really made my life difficult. I suddenly felt a complicated tangle of emotions. I was a mess. What on earth was Lu Huai thinking? And more importantly, what the hell was I thinking? "What are you thinking about?" Lu Huai's voice suddenly broke through my thoughts. I snapped out of it and realized he'd turned off the hairdryer. He was looking down at me, his gaze deep, an unreadable smile playing on his lips. "Zoned out?" he asked, his voice low and playful. My breath hitched. I wanted to snap back at him, but at that exact moment, my ears began to burn. Seeing this, Lu Huai's smile deepened. He let go of my neck, his voice nonchalant. "No need to thank me. After all, a personal assistant is supposed to be a little more personal." He was using my own words against me again? Lu Huai turned and walked away, leaving me frozen on the couch. I'd spent a month in a constant state of bickering with Lu Huai. One day, Lu Huai demanded I accompany him to a gala, under the guise of needing me as his human shield. Given my current status, I couldn't possibly go. People would definitely be there to gloat and watch me make a fool of myself, so I vehemently refused. But Lu Huai actually threatened me with my next few months' salary, and I pathetically caved. Let them laugh. A tree can't live without its bark, but a person without shame is invincible. Brilliant light from the ballroom's lavish crystal chandeliers showered down on the scene. It was a blur of clinking glasses, fragrant perfumes, and elegant silhouettes. Holding a glass of red wine, I leaned against a wall in the corner, bored out of my mind, my gaze fixed on Lu Huai in the center of the room. The man was dressed in a perfectly tailored black suit, exuding a cool, aristocratic air. He chatted and laughed easily with the business elites around him, yet his every move carried an intimidating presence. Being by his side, I drew my fair share of stares. Not far off, a group of socialites sat huddled together, whispering. Their eyes kept darting in my direction, filled with a mix of mockery and contempt. Suddenly, a cloyingly sweet female voice cut through the surrounding chatter. I hear the great Miss Jiang has been living at Mr. Lu's house recently? Oh, no, the Jiang family is bankrupt now. She's not the great Miss Jiang anymore, just Miss Jiang. My hand holding the wine glass paused. I lifted my eyes to see who it was, Zhou Yuan, the daughter of the Zhou family. Everyone knew she'd been pining after Lu Huai for 6 years to no avail. Seeing me by his side now, her heart was probably bleeding. She held a champagne flute, a smile on her lips, but malice lurked in her eyes. Her words were light, but they hit their mark with precision. So, after the Jiang family went bankrupt, you just moved into Mr. Lu's home with a clear conscience? Mr. Lu must have taken you in out of the kindness of his heart, right? As she finished, a few soft chuckles rippled through the air. Everyone's eyes, full of insinuation, shifted between the two of us. My fingertips tightened on my glass as a fire ignited within me. Kindness of his heart? Taken me in? She made it sound like I was some pathetic charity case clinging to his leg. I let out a cold laugh and was about to respond when I felt a familiar presence close in. The next second, a strong hand gripped my wrist. With a sharp tug, I stumbled unprepared into Lu Huai's arms. The man's deep voice sounded by my ear, his tone casual yet dangerous. Who told you it was out of kindness? Before anyone could react, Lu Huai cupped the back of my neck, leaned down, and kissed me. The entire room fell instantly silent. Every single pair of eyes was fixed on us, as if shocked speechless by the scene. I was completely stunned, my mind a total blank. His warm breath washed over me, his hand holding my neck firm, with a pressure that permitted no resistance. This kiss wasn't gentle, it was, almost possessive, like a public declaration of ownership. The color drained from Zhou Yuan's face, as if she'd just been brutally slapped. Her mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. This wasn't taking someone in. This was possession. The whispers gradually started up again, everyone floored by the sudden turn of events. My heart was pounding, my ears burning. For a split second, I almost forgot my own situation. But what did Lu Huai mean by this? Was he just playing around, or was he serious? The question circled endlessly in my mind, a poisoned hook digging deeper into my heart. I instinctively tried to push him away, but his grip was unyielding. He only loosened his hold when I was completely out of breath, his gaze deep as he looked at me. Do you understand now? He asked, his voice low and husky. I gasped for air, my eyes darting away, unable to meet his. Understand what? That he was serious? Or that I had already completely fallen for him? It was all too absurd. Just then, Zhou Yuan's voice, tinged with resentment, piped up again. But for Miss Jiang to be living in Mr. Lu's home, it's still. Are you that bored? Lu Huai cut her off coldly, his eyes sharp with warning. Or should I find something for you to do? Zhou Yuan's face went white. She immediately shut her mouth, her hands clenching her champagne flute as she lowered her head, not daring to say another word. My thoughts were a complete mess. Facing Lu Huai, I felt a sense of helplessness I'd never felt before. It wasn't like me. I hated this ambiguous relationship. I hated that I was already developing feelings but still had to pretend I didn't care. And I hated, even more, that if Lu Huai discovered my feelings, he might look down on me even more. I couldn't let this continue. After the gala ended, I stormed into my room, pulled out my suitcase, and started rapidly packing my things. I couldn't stay here anymore. I had to leave before Lu Huai got back, before the situation spiraled completely out of control, while I still had a chance to get out. But as I stood at the door, looking at the familiar room, my fingers resting on the doorknob, an indescribable emotion washed over me. I had lived in this house for months, so familiar with it that it had become a habit. I was used to the breakfast Lu Huai would casually buy and leave on the table every morning. I was used to his sharp tongue that never translated into real hardship for me. I was used to him. I slowly closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and forced myself to stop thinking. I grabbed my suitcase, turned, and walked away. The apartment was quiet. The moment Lu Huai pushed the door open, a sudden, uneasy feeling washed over him. He changed his shoes and walked into the living room, instinctively scanning the space. Empty. On the coffee table, her usual water glass was still there, with faint water stains clinging to the side, as if she might be back any minute. But as he looked around, the jacket she usually tossed carelessly on the sofa was gone. Even the bedroom door was ajar, emanating an unusual coldness. Frowning, he walked into the bedroom and opened the closet, just as he'd thought. Half empty. Lu Huai stood silently before the closet for a moment. He raised a hand to loosen his collar and let out a low laugh, but there was no humor in his eyes. Ran off pretty quick. He raised his phone and dialed the familiar number, his tone cold, his patience worn thin. Jiang Shimiao, what is the meaning of this? Silence on the other end of the line, broken only by the faint sound of breathing. He narrowed his eyes, about to speak again, when a soft gasp came through the receiver, like a long-suppressed emotion finally breaking free. Lu Huai, Jiang Shimiao's voice was hoarse, as if she were desperately holding something back. Being with you like this, with nothing defined, what does that make me look like? She sniffled, then gave a small, self-deprecating laugh. I give up. I really have fallen for you. You got what you wanted. Now, I don't want to play this game anymore. Lu Huai's heart clenched. His grip on the phone tightened, the pads of his fingers turning white. His thin lips pressed into a hard line. He was silent for a moment before he spoke. Where are you? Jiang Shimiao didn't answer. Lu Huai closed his eyes and let out a low, tight laugh. Jiang Shimiao, if you're really just going to walk out, at least tell me. Still, only silence from the other end. He sighed, his tone softening for once. Meet me. I have something to tell you. After about 10 seconds, a quiet, came from her end. Half an hour later, I stood by a park bench, pulling my coat tighter against the chill of the night wind. Not far off, a familiar figure approached at a slow walk. Beneath the lamplight, the night cast Lu Huai's expression in shadow, making it seem heavy with some restrained emotion hidden in his eyes. We stopped, facing each other in silence for a moment. I broke the silence first, my tone a little stiff. What did you want to say? Lu Huai looked at me, his voice deep. Jiang Shimiao, you still don't get it, do you? I was never just playing around. I faltered, about to speak, when Lu Huai let out a soft, helpless-sounding laugh. You've been wondering, haven't you? Why I specifically had you deliver my food. Why I had you move into my house to be my personal assistant. I froze and shot my head up. Lu Huai raised a hand, his long fingers gently tracing his own palm. His gaze landed on my face as he said slowly, I did it on purpose. My breath caught. From the very beginning, I arranged all of it. Lu Huai's voice was low. I knew you were broke, and I knew you were too proud to accept help. So I deliberately used the food delivery to get you to come to me, to make sure you saw me as a customer, not as someone giving you a handout. I had you move in, put you on a payroll, and found things for you to do. Lu Huai paused, the faintest hint of a smile on his lips. Because I knew if I offered to help you directly, you'd never accept it. I stared at him, stunned, my heart hammering wildly in my chest. You asked what I want. Lu Huai murmured, his voice laced with a raw, restrained quality. It's not a personal assistant. My throat went tight. I looked up at him. Then what do you want? Lu Huai looked at me, a dark undercurrent swirling in his eyes. His voice was a low, mesmerizing whisper. I want you. My breath hitched, and my heart gave a hard, painful thud. I clenched my fists without thinking. After a long moment, I suddenly reached out, grabbed his tie, and pulled him close. Leaning into his ear, I said in a husky voice, "Lu Huai, this time, you win." A small smile played on Lu Huai's lips. His eyes were full of adoration as he replied softly, "Time to pay up, Miss Jiang."